Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Looks like we have a Dutch angle today, but it is what it is. Today we are looking at a prayer, and we're looking at specifically the melody of a prayer. So hopefully you checked out the first part where we looked at the harmony, meaning the chords, and this time we're going to be involved more with the guitar itself. The first thing I want to do is just write down F major for us here. I'll just write down for the 8th fret to be over here. This is a very standard major scale shape, right? So here's what it sounds like. Now, of course, the major scale can just keep on going. Let me mark down the roots over here. We can do this and this and this and keep this going on for as long as we want. And the sound doesn't really change. And we can go even underneath it too. It's all okay. The sound of the major scale doesn't really change. But those are the intervals or the function of the notes that we are dealing with in F major. So let's take out all the extra stuff. Now, let's look at the melody. So I'll take the bends out so it's a bit easier to see what's going on. That's a very nice melody on its own, even without the chords. Also, one thing that I want to note here is that we have a pickup bar, meaning that the melody doesn't start right on the one. It starts with a pickup, meaning it starts before the one. So the one is over here. But we have a note that's before it, which is this. Once you get more experience in doing transcriptions and stuff like that, you learn to sense where the one of a bar is, or where does a section start. So to me, the section starts with this. So that's what we call a pickup bar. Now let's put the chords in with the melody. Ain't that beautiful? Let's look at the very first thing with the B flat. Now at first, let's just look at it with the F major scale. We are right inside the F major scale. The thing that's kind of creating interest here is the chords rubbing against the melody. And what I mean is this. That's a bit of a tension and resolution that's going on in there. So the B flat chord, we can play it, for instance, in here. Just a B flat major bar chord, right? And the melody is on the B string in this case. So it's the 5th of the chord. But we have this. So one way to look at it is that we have this nice little tense pull that is taking us to the 5th of the chord. If you want to look at it more analytically, then we can analyze it and see that it's a sharp 4 of the B flat. In fact, if we stayed there like that, then I would change the name to be a B flat with a sharp 4. But that's not what we're doing. We're having this little taste and then moving away from it. So the B flat in a way stabilizes after we do that. That's another way to look at it. Either way is fine. Let's keep going. Then comes the F with an A in the bass. It's F major chord with notes from the F major scale. And this is the one. Then a very similar thing here. This note again is a chord tone, a third of the B flat. Right? And this note is the fifth of the F major. So we are all inside F major. We just have these little tension moments that are a bit away from the chord tones, but then we land on the chord tones and it feels nice. Then is the first weirdness that is going on, and that is this. What is that? Well, the chord is an A7. Let's take an A major bar chord. Now we can easily turn it into a 7 by changing this note. Then we have this. Right? It's a very similar sound, but there is a bit of a difference. But right now, we're in the same function, so it doesn't change the mood all that much, especially now that we're hearing both of the chords. Either way, the function is the same, it's still the 5 to a 6. Let's look at the melody notes. What we are hitting is this one, and we're going around it on both ways. And this right here is the A note itself, meaning the one of the chord. So let's take out the rest of these bar chord notes here. So what we are hitting is this with this pattern. So it's a chromatic approach from both sides, and the center of it all is the A note, the one. So someone might call that a chromatic enclosure to the one. Either way you want to call it is fine. Then we're hitting this note, which is the third, which was in the bar chord, right? Then we are sliding up over here, but if we change the fingering and put it here, it's just this. It's just the 5. Same thing, right? Now that note is, we're doing a similar thing that we did in the harmony thing, which was extending the 7th a little bit, and we are extending it up into a flat 9. Let me write down the function of these notes here. So 1, 3, 5. Here would be a flat 7. Here would be a 1 again. But we are extending the chord a little bit by adding in the flat 9. And if you remember what we talked about in the 9s, they are right next to the 1. So in this case, the flat 9 is here. In the tablature, it's on the B string, so it's way up here. But to make it easier to understand, I want to put it here inside the kind of this chord grip that we all know. Makes sense? If you look at it from the chord perspective, then it's not all that weird. It's pretty straightforward. Then we are landing on the D minor here. And if we look at it from a bar chord perspective again, this would be a bar chord of the D minor. And we are hitting this note, just before we hit the two chord tones. Right? So a lot of what is going on here is that we are inside the key, but we are having these tensions that are a little bit away from the chords and then draw us in. Same thing with the B flat, and same thing with the D minor. As you can see, there isn't as much tension in the D minor because we don't have that half step pull, meaning this. That's a way more of a pull than from this. That is a whole step, meaning 2 frets away from the chord tones. I can give it to you from 1 fret below. Now that's a pull. But that's not what we're doing here. That's not the point of this song, to have that kind of a tone. So the next phrase, we're going for the B flat. So we're going again the same way for the B flat. And then for the C, that's a 5 of the chord. So we're just writing the chord tone. Okay. Then comes the next section with a new melody. All right inside the F major and all very much hitting nicely the chord tone. So that's a third of the F. Then we're doing the same thing with the A minor that we did with the D minor before. So for the G minor, we're hitting the third, going up just the F major scale. You can also think of it as a G minor pentatonic. Either one is fine. And then on the E chord, we're simply hitting the E note, which is right inside F major. Then comes the B flat. We're hitting the 5th and the 1 of the chord. On the C, we're hitting the 5 and the flat 7. And then we're going up. We're going up to a third of the chord. That's the third of the F major. So everything is very much in tune with the chords. Now here is this kind of weird thing. That's weird. I'll take the bends out so you can see it a bit more clearly what's going on. We can reverse these strings in a way and just go. So I'm hitting 10 on the B string and 13 on the G string. So what's going on here is against the D, the higher note is just a 5. And it's the same kind of pull that we had on the B flat. We're just using it a lot more elaborately. Woo. And then we're getting into the G major section. Now notice how the melody is pretty similar. right? It has the similar kind of things going on. We're starting again with a pickup bar that is from the D note, which is the fifth of the G. Then we're hitting, again, we're doing the same thing that we did with the D minor and the A minor, which is instead of hitting the chord tone right away, we're hitting the note in between the chord tones. Then comes the A, and we are hitting all the chord tones. So here's the third. That's the 1. And here is the third of the D7. Same thing. On the E minor, we're hitting the B note, which is the fifth of the E minor. And this is the fifth of the D7. So again, similar kind of things going on. We are pretty much inside the G major scale, but we are very conscious of the chord tones. And that's the kind of thing that makes for a really strong and beautiful melody that sticks with you. If we just cruise around the G major scale, it's hard to make anything memorable. But if we are conscious of the chords that are happening underneath, then it's a lot more feasible that you'll come up with something strong. And usually, if you hear a melody in your head, it usually has something to do with the chords. Okay, let's keep going. A similar kind of thing. A bit of chromaticism in there, meaning that we have this is the third of the B minor, and next up is an A minor with the same third over there too, right? We're just using the note that's in between those two because it's moving so strongly from one chord to the next, our ear doesn't mind. Again, hitting the same D7 third that we did before, and it happens again. And we end up on the 1, which is the G. Then, when we hit the next section in the C chord, we're doing the exact same kind of pull that we did before. So the target note that we're circling around is the G, which is the 1 of the key, and it fits both the C and the G chords. The same pull that we had before. Okay, so then comes the B7, and as you can probably guess, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the A7 before in the F major. The entire key is a whole step higher, so this whole thing does the same thing. So the B7 is here, and exactly the same thing with the E minor too. Then comes the C, and nothing really changes. Now we are having the same melody as before. The only thing that's kind of different this time is that the chords are different behind. And we looked at the chords before. That's one of the things that I really love about Marty's music, for instance, and a lot of Japanese music, well, a lot of good music, to be honest, is that the chords are a part of the storytelling. So we have the same, but we have minor chords underneath. So the melody is the same, but the chords beneath it bring this new perspective to the melody. And I love that. It's like witnessing a memory, but from a different perspective, if that makes sense. It's weird to explain things like this with spoken language, because that's not the point here. The point is just the sound and the feelings that they evoke. I can try and talk about the feelings using English, but it's not the same as with the music. I love that. Then as we land over here, then we just go up an E minor arpeggio. And I have the shape written down there. It's a pretty standard minor shape that we like to use a lot. And then we go up to the minor third. And we come down just the G major scale. Or you can think about it as an E minor scale in this instance. Either way is fine. But the next note that we land on is this. Maybe you can guess what it is. It's the same kind of pull that we have. So we're on B7. And the target note is this. And we're just simply coming down from below. So the same kind of pull that we had before. The rest of those notes are just straight up an B7 arpeggio. Then as we get out of the B7, we come back to the E minor. Let me raise up my guitar neck a little bit. Now this shape, I put it down there, and to me it was more natural to go with this shape. It's all E minor. But I wouldn't be surprised if Marty did it here. Either way is fine. But now we land on this, which is the C. And the chord is a C, so just the one of the chord. Right? Now these notes are right inside G major, and they don't take part in the C minor thing at all. The minor note would be here. But what's nice about this thing, fits both major and minor. And it's all inside the G major. Now we're getting into this part where there are no chords, but the last chord that we ended up on was the C minor. So let's look at it. The last chord that we ended up on was C minor, so these two notes are C and E flat, so they are right in the C minor chord. Then this, the first note was an E flat. In a way, we're coming in between the D and E flats. Now, the implication to me here is that we're kind of going for a D7. So, that's one way to look at it. And all the notes after this go nicely with the D7. Let's look at this thing from this perspective here. So I'm going to say that it's a D7. Here is the 1. So we're hitting the 1 and the flat 9. Oh, yeah. So make it like this even. The next up, the 11. That is the 3rd. Now we are doing this. That 10th fret right there, we can give it a name, and that would be a sharp 9, if that's what we want to do. I would call it just a pull, because that's kind of what we're doing here. We're pulling this here, we're pulling this here, makes sense? But we can call it a sharp 9. It's totally fine. That would sound like this. It works fine with the D7, sure. The next note that we hit is a 5. Then we are going up the B string, and we're hitting this note, and what do you know it, to a D7, it's a flat 7. So right on in. Next note is this, and this would be the flat 9 again. Then comes this, and what do you know it, it is the 3rd again. So from the perspective of the D7, it's pretty much all in there. So first is C minor, then the D7. So even though there isn't a chord in the backing that is implying the D7 heavily, we can still do it with the melody. And it all pulls us nicely into the G major. Okay, so next we are in the G major, and we are using this pretty standard arpeggio shape again. And we just have some notes in between that are right inside the G major. And that is that thing and that thing. We can give them names too. They are up here is the 4, and here is the 9 or the 2. But the names of those notes aren't all that important to me. What's more important is that we are inside the shape, and we are just filling it in with some G major notes. Then as we land on the B minor, both of them are chord tones. Then we are getting to the A minor. All nicely inside G major, and they hit the chord tones. So a 5 and a 3 and a 5 of the D7. And this is just going up the G major scale. And again, hitting the 3rd. We're doing a similar kind of thing that we did before. If these are the chord tones, the 1 and the 3, Then we're doing this before the chord tones. Now here is a bit more of an elaborate thing in that this time we're not just hitting the G major chord tones. Well, we are, but we're extending them. Here would be the G. So this G note is what we're kind of circling, but we're not playing the G note. We're playing notes right kind of around it. So major 7 here, the 9 is over here, then there's even a 6 here, a 5 here, and a 3 is here. All of these work nicely, but what's making a bit more of a unique sound here is that we are specifically landing on this major 7. Right? It's a very major 7 sound when we rest on it. But then in the next bar, when the chord changes to a G7, we can't really use the G major 7 again, but we have to get out of it, get out of the way of the 7. So we hit the 5, which is this one right here. Then comes this section again with the C major, and we have the same pull we did before. Right? Then, before we had the A7 and the B7, now we have an F diminished. And we talked about it in the harmony part. Let's look at what the melody is doing. We're simply outlining the F diminished 7 arpeggio. And then when it comes to A minor, we do the same. And then the C minor comes, which was the minor 4. We're hitting the minor 3rd in there. Then we are working with the D7. We're having a pretty straightforward D major arpeggio shape, which I'll write it down in this place over here. So D major, right? And this note is simply being played over here. Well, I played it there because it seemed more natural in this situation, but either way is fine. We simply just have a similar kind of a note in between here. Then we land a fret higher, which is not in the G major, but the music isn't in G major anymore. We have now shifted to the E flat major. E flat can be found over there and also there. And we are hitting this note, which is the 5. So it works perfectly with the chord. And you probably guessed it, the next one here is a chord tone, and it's the E flat itself. On the B flat, it's all chord tones. It's all very much inside E flat major, and again being conscious of the chord tones. Then we get to this dude right here, which is a similar kind of a dominant situation that we had before with the A7 and the B7 and the F diminished, but this time it's G. And we're circling around the 1 again. We're just doing it over there. Before in the B7, we played with the 1 over here. Now over here on the G7, we're still playing with the 1, we're just doing it over here. And what's nice about it is that we get to slide up an octave to a G again. And the next note is this, which is to the G, the flat 9. It's a nice bit of tension. And we resolve the tension when we get to C minor. We're hitting the same G note again, but now it's the 5th of the chord. So we're doing the same kind of circling function up top too, but it's not as fast as this. It's more of a bendy. But the function is the same, right? Okay. C minor. Right? And on the A flat, we just hit the 5 again. And the 1. It's all inside E flats, and we end up on the A flat note, which works on both the A flat major and the A flat minor. So an octave lower, it looks like this. Okay, so then we get to the outro, and it's the same melody as before, but in F major again. So it's all the same, right? Then we get to the B flat again, and the same kind of, right? All chord tones. And then our ear is kind of expecting the F major, but we're landing on this note, which to the F major is a major 3rd, and to a D minor is the 5th. And they both work fine. So and the rhythm guitar is doing this. Oh yeah. But yeah, that's it for the melody of A Prayer. It's pretty straightforward, and the moments where there are some strange notes, they make total sense when you look at them with the chords. That's the thing that Marty is very, very good at, is that he is very conscious of the chords that are going on all the time. And getting used to that, being aware of chords kind of muscle is rough at first. And it's still rough for me at times, at least. But it's something that you get better at it as you do it. So if this all seems overwhelming and seems like there's no way you could ever understand all of this, trust me, if you stick with it, it will become a bit more natural. The end goal, at least for me, is to end up in a place where Marty is, where he can just hear it and then play it. He's not worried about any of this stuff when he's actually playing music. He's hearing all this stuff and playing what he hears. It's just that what he hears happens to go nicely with the chords. Okay, but that is it for this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And yeah, I'll see you next time.